This is KTVO's Good Morning Heartland.
Welcome back. Even though the temperatures have been unseasonably cooler this week, people are still heading to the lakes, whether to spend the day at the beach or on the water in their boats. And because of that, local law enforcement agencies want to keep a few things in mind before you head out to the water. To break it down for us, we have Officer Ray Jagger with the Kirksville Police Department and Chief Tom Collins with the Kirksville Fire Department. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Just fine.
I think we're doing well.
So a crazy little statistic that you shared with me, Officer Jagger, is that so far this year in the state of Missouri, there have been 9 fatal boating accidents and 21 drownings in Missouri. So obviously this is a serious topic, and basically safety tips we all need to keep in mind, whether we do own a boat or we're just going out to lay out by the lake. So first of all, let's talk about being boat ready. What do we need in order to make sure that we stay safe out on the boats?
Well, I think probably the number one thing you need to do is that what we're worried about is being sure that you've got at least one life vest for everybody that's on the boat, plus one throw cushion that you can use in case you run into trouble.
And that's what you would throw out to somebody if they were out in the water.
That's required by law in, I think, most states.
All right.
The other thing you need to do is to be sure that, of course, like we talked about before, you got to have the batteries up. I know one of my favorite things to do is to leave the fish finder on and then the battery's not up. So you have to be sure that the batteries are up. Be sure that you got fuel. Running out of fuel and having to paddle your way back to the marina is never a fun thing. Other than that, you got to be sure that you got the right permits, and that you got all the things that you need.
And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Now what I want to talk about is staying safe, as in, if somebody is drowning or struggling in the water. And even a new thing, I mean, it's not a new thing, but we've been hearing about it more lately, is silent drowning. So can you talk more about that, Chief Collins?
Yes. Most people think that drowning is going to be like in the movies where people are going under and their hands are up in the air, and that's not what happens. When somebody goes underwater, their mind says when they get up out of the water to take a breath, not to scream for help. So they come up, they take a breath, and they go down. And their arms aren't up flailing in the air waving for help. They're usually trying to keep up. And one of the problems is children, when they do that, they think they're playing. People see them and they think they're playing. And statistically, a lot of children die within feet of an adult that just don't know they're in trouble. I mean, they can be in a swimming pool on the lake, and they don't know because the people think that the child is playing or the person is playing. So it's what they call silent drowning. They're not saying "help me, help me." It's they just go underwater.
Right.
Yeah. So when your mouth's full of water or you're coughing, it's hard to yell very loud.
So
the only way you can yell is really with your eyes.
Yeah, and so one way is obviously always keep an eye on the water, especially with little ones, but also no CPR if you can, right?
Yes, and absolutely. Another thing, talking about boating safety, people go out into the lake and they go swimming, and even people who think they're strong swimmers overestimate their abilities. It's farther than they think, the water's rougher than they think, and then they get tired, and they wait until their last breath to call for help instead of, hey, I'm having some trouble, somebody get me some help, and by the time somebody gets there, it's too late.
Yeah, the most likely person to drown by rate is going to be a child less than 4 years old.
Okay.
But there are about 3,800 and some drownings a year in the United States, and 3,000 of those are adult males.
Interesting. So always, even though you're an adult, and I know this is
a lot of males
sometimes it's not fashionably cool to wear a life jacket, but obviously it saves your life for a reason. It's there for a reason. Now, really quickly, because we are running out of time, let's talk about license. Do we need to have a license in order to operate not a motor vehicle, a boat?
A boat.
Motorboat.
If you were born after 1984, which I wasn't, but I have a card anyway.
Okay.
You need to get one of those cards.
Okay,
in
so
Missouri.
after 19.
After.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and is it a test that you take, kind of like a driver's license?
Online, you go to dps.mo.gov, and there's a course and a test, or you can go to courses inside if you need them. But that's you need one of those as the driver. You need to learn, the basic rules of the basic rules of the road, even, or of the water. You know, boats are a little different. They don't have brakes.
Right.
You don't have lanes.
You're right.
You don't have stoplights. So the only thing you got are people trying to make good decisions and be courteous with each other.
All right. And you are also out there on a regular basis during the summertime patrolling the lake to make sure everybody is safe. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on. What we'll do is we'll post everything on our website at heartlineconnection.com. We'll also link up the fire department's and the police department's information if you have any questions or concerns or would like to learn more about what we just talked about. Thanks again, gentlemen, for coming on,
Thank you.
and we'll be right back.